Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply, and this video is to bring you a closer look at the Bommer CL3029 by 4.5-633 6-inch double acting spring hinge, mortise type, template to the door, ball tip, satin brass hinge. So there's a lot going on with this double acting hinge. In principle, it is a typical double acting hinge by Bommer, of which they're so known for. 6-inch height, very common. That's more of a relationship of the door thickness that the 3029 is capable of handling, and we'll talk about that a bit later. The 4.5 added part to the part number means that this leaf, the door leaf, is intended to be mortised to the edge of a commercial door. 4.5 means 4.5 inch, and that's your typical size for prep of a wood door, a steel door. Okay, let's back up. The CL stands for these little ball tips, decorative tips. Very nice feature. I see these not so often as new installations, but New York, hotels in New York are full of these ball tip hinges. That's where I've seen them most commonly, out in the wild, so to speak. Anyway, it's a very nice feature on an otherwise kind of utilitarian sort of piece of hardware. The 633 stands for satin brass, and that's what this is. Available in several different finishes on the website. So let's get into the meat and potatoes of this hinge. Tip it down here for you and show you all the different facets of this hinge. Okay, so back to, I had to interrupt that video for a bit, so back to showing you the components of this item. Kind of laying it over on its side shows you how these different leaves fold or stack up from the rear. It's kind of hard to get your head around how this hinge works without actually seeing it. So I'm going to put it back together and we'll go over it a little bit more in depth. So this is the back side of the hinge, what you're seeing here. Okay, this leaf surface mounts to the jamb. Right now, my arm is the jamb, my hand. Okay, you would run screws through this and attach it to the jamb like this. There's no tension set on the spring, so that's no big deal. Turning the hinge over this way now, this is the area in which the door goes. The door would occupy this area here. Okay, so your frame's back here. This leaf is attached to the jamb. Cased opening frame, of course, flat frame. Then this leaf gets mortised into the edge of the door such that the leaf is flush. This would be a 4.5 inch, 134 thousandths of an inch leaf thickness, which is typical. If you had a, you wouldn't really, if it was a metal door, you know, your hinge cutout could be all the way through. It could be a universal style with the hinge plate there, assuming it was square edge. You're going to want a square edge door. If you had a wood door, you would mortise it just like you would any other hinge with a 1/4 inch backset. You wouldn't cut all the way through. But again, you'll want a square edge on the door. And that's how those mount. Okay? If you have questions on this at this point, by all means call me. And we'll discuss it more at length. You kind of have to use your imagination in terms of how this mounts. But you can kind of get the idea this way when I, you know, if you're looking at the door in elevation, we turn it 90 degrees, tip it over, you can get the idea at this point. The frame leaf is surface mounted. The hinge leaf is not on the 4.5 when you add the 4.5 to the part number. Okay, so we discussed the CL, the 3029. The 6 is a reference to the size of the hinge, and that size is really a reference to, we had said earlier that the size, you know, that's basically going to be the height of the hinge barrel, not including the decorative cap assembly. So 6 inch from here to here. Okay, but that's really not important as much as the fact that a 6-inch Bommer hinge is going to be for an 1 3/4 door, okay, because of the 4.5 inch. You couldn't use a thinner door because you won't be able to fit the hinge on. And while you could probably get away with a thicker door, this interior, this inside dimension between the barrels here is nominally 2 inch. So you would fit an 1 3/4 door in there if it had plastic laminate on it, which would make it, you know, 100,000ths of an inch thicker. But this is made for 1 3/4 doors. That's the bottom line. That's the important part when you talk about 6 inch. If you were talking about a 5 inch hinge, I know automatically that you're not going to install an 1 3/4 door because a 5 inch won't handle it. 6 inch will, or an 8 inch will. So 6 by 4.5. 6 really means 1 3/4 door. 4.5 means you're going to mortise that leaf in a 4.5 inch prep pocket. I know that I'm being redundant. Some people appreciate it, some don't. Sorry. There's a guide below this video showing the weight and size guidelines for this. 7-foot doors is what you're going to be working with on this. Sure, 6'8" would work as well. 2 hinges if you've got a 75-pound door. 3 hinges if you've got up to a 107-pound door. 2 hinges for 32-inch wide. 3 hinges for 3-foot wide. Now, if you're dealing with a typical door that's already mortised for hinges, top, middle, and bottom, that's okay. For sure, you're going to want 3 of these hinges because, per the link to the instructions, Bommer is showing you they really want 2 of these hinges at the top. They don't want 1 at the top, 1 in the middle, 1 at the bottom. It's because all of the weight of the door is really hanging off that top hinge, and one of these is really not intended to handle that much weight, especially when you consider the fact that the door is going to be flapping through the opening, and a lot of energy, a lot of kinetic energy is moving through that opening with a 100-pound door wanting the hinge to spread out like this. It wants it to do this, okay? So if it's a new installation, definitely follow their installation guidelines. 2 hinges at the top. 3 inches from the top for the first hinge, and then 2 or 3 hinges below these. And at that point, you're guaranteed a real good installation. Also, page 2 of that installation gets into the meat and potatoes of how to install this. Okay, and let's go over that now. You know what? Let's back up. It's not time to do that. Refer to the template at this point. What you're seeing on the template, on the left-hand side, you're seeing a lot of dimensions. Okay, great. You know, you're going to see everything there dimensionally. Don't need to bother with going over all that stuff now. You've got it. It's all going to be there. You can double check if you like. Right side, that's where the important part comes into. The real meat and potatoes of this video is the question that we inherently get is, how big should the door be? Or how much bigger should the frame be to account for all of this mass that's got to fit in there, okay? And it depends on if it's a single door or a double door. If you're using one door or you're having a pair of doors. So let's do a single door. Frame upper right-hand corner. Frame opening, actual door width plus dimension. Okay, so now looking back at frame opening, actual door width plus dimension A. Dimension A on this template is only showing you a door flange mortised. Okay, and that's 7/16 of an inch. So if you had a 36-inch wide cased opening frame, your net door width will have to be 35 9/16. That's 7/16 less. And reversing that, if you had a 36-inch door, you know that your cased opening width will have to be 35 7/16. 36 7/16. That's based on a square edge door. Okay, you're going to want the hinge edge to be square for sure. You could radius the lock edge, or the side with the push-pull plate, or 2 pushes I should say, because then you could achieve a slightly tighter margin, because you can see that if you've got a square edge door, you're going to need a bit more room, because if my fist represents, you know, the square edge of a door, you've got to have greater margin so that, you know, you don't hit as the door opens in and out. Now, I don't have math on that per se. You'd probably be able to cheat at about 1/8 of an inch at that point. And if you want to talk about radiusing the doors, let me know, call me, email me. I'll be happy to help you with that. I've done that many times myself. But for this video, that's not standard to do that. Although if it was a pair of doors, which we're going to talk about now, I would probably... So sorry, I had to interrupt that again. Talking about the pairs of doors that we're talking about now, the same logic applies. You've got a frame opening. If your frame's already built, you're going to take the frame opening, okay, and that's going to be derived. If you've got it already built, you'll take that dimension, you'll subtract 13/16, which is the B dimension, and then divide that by 2 if you're going to have obviously 2 doors. Or other way around, you take your net door width, add those together, add 13/16, that'll be the clear frame opening width. It's all very simple and straightforward, you know, not a lot to it. If it was going to be a pair of doors, I probably would want to radius those edges around by using a large round over bit and a router, just so that you could tighten that margin up, because as the doors open, you're going to need a lot more room in there. You'd probably be able to close that up a little bit aesthetically. Although, if you're dealing with double-acting spring hinges like this, you know, this is probably the look you're going for, and having an extra 1/4 inch between the doors is really, I'm sure, not an issue. Now, back to the installation instructions, page 2. Okay, what this is going to talk about is how you set the tension on the springs. It's very simple. It's very straightforward. Bottom line is this: you're going to want to install the hinges such as that arrow, and this arrow is going up to the top of the door, not down. You can install it down, but the direction of arrow indicates the direction in which you crank the spring over with your tension rod, which is always included. You insert that into one of the holes in the tension collar, you rotate it in the direction of the spring, and you see that as I do that, I reveal new holes. And as those holes are revealed, you would drop into it one of the tension pins. And there's 2 here because the hinge requires 2, here and here. So obviously the tension set here is going to control this leaf that it's connected to, and same over here. This barrel is going to set the tension on the spring closer to the door. It's just that simple. There's not a lot else to say about that pertaining to the installation instructions. You know, if you've got a pair of doors, you are going to install these one end down. Just follow, you know, the direction that you're dealing with on the arrow. That it will always set the tension. Okay. Installation instructions, step 1, step 2, step 3, just give you an idea of exactly how to go about, you know, hanging the door. So I won't beleaguer all those points here. It's very straightforward. And at that point, there's really not much else to talk about. Bommer is a fantastic company. This is what they're known for: good quality fit and finish, heavy-duty commercial-grade products. And one thing that I really like, in addition to already liking being a distributor of theirs, you can see right above their logo it says Made in USA, a fact that Bommer is quite proud of, as am I to represent them. American made, 100%. Even the steel, I understand, is domestically manufactured. Fantastic customer service, extremely knowledgeable, good lead times, and if they don't have it in stock, it's always well worth the wait for a Bommer item. Any questions on the Bommer CL3029-6x4.5, 633 finish? And by the way, all screws, wood and metal, half wood, half metal, are included. If you have need for all wood screws, specify that in the comment field, because looking here, there aren't all included. They're giving you half wood, half metal. Specify in the comment field how to do that, or that you want all wood screws or half and half. If you have any questions on this or any other Bommer product, please feel free to reach out to us. I apologize for the multiple start-stops. Making videos during the day when the phone rings is something that requires me to do that occasionally. Any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. Thank you.